have what I promised last week. I don't have the beginning of our series for a little mouse bedroom, but I do have something really fun for spring to celebrate the March and the beginning of spring. And I have these little putz-inspired little spring lambs or sheep, however you want to think of them. And I really quick just I turned on the camera after chores last night, and this little sheep came together in about an hour, and I love her. I don't love her cart, so I'm not going to show you how I made the cart because I don't recommend following that. I do make carts in another video from a few months ago, so you can look at that, and I'm going to show you how to make this very, very simple fabric covered cart with button wheels today. So we will cover mostly just the making of this sheep, which is really a very, very simple thing to make, and comes together very quickly and is a great beginner spun cotton project. It does have a little bit of paper mache, but you just use the same paste as what we're using for our spun cotton. So I think I'm gonna be cheesy and title this video It's Normal, or something like It's Normal to Make Bad Art. And that is so true. I made some bad art last night with this cart, in my opinion. I think that's pretty bad. But I'm okay with that, and I'm showing it to you, and it's just what happens sometimes. And sometimes you have to make something that's not so great to get to the great place. There's just stepping stones to get places, and so I had to make this cart with the bad wheels to probably get to a cart that I like better, and that's okay. I'm all right with that, because while I know that our time is precious, at the same time, I do look at, doing kind of creative types of things as an activity that is nurturing for me, and also is like, a de-stressing or anti-stress type of thing, or anti-anxiety type of activity. It just it helps me to just do something with my hands. So although it can feel like, oh, we've wasted our time if we've spent a few hours making something that we don't want to display or share with someone, we can also just look at it as, a few hours that we put into developing a skill set, and also just being busy with our hands and mind, and and not so fixated on our problems or the world's problems. So that said, let's spend a little bit of time just making something sweet and happy today. Hi everyone, it's Rosanna. It's the end of the week again, and I did not get a video shot for you yet. Not the one that I intended to. The week just didn't go like I expected that it would. Of course, I don't know if they ever really do, but when you're homeschooling and doing whatever work you do from home, you, I think, probably understand how, like, it doesn't take a lot of disruption to just really get you off track. And so, like, Nettie has needed more help with her school lately than maybe she was for a while. And part of it is she had a little cold this week, and it just made her kind of like spacier than usual, and kind of out of it. And I just needed to really help her to stay focused. And so school took longer, and then we had a blizzard yesterday that took out the power for part of the afternoon, although we were very, very, very lucky. A lot of people in the state, north and west of us, are still without power, so they went through the night without power, which was like 20 or upper teens. And it was extremely windy, so you can imagine how quickly a house gets cold when those are the conditions. And it just took down all kinds of power poles out in the rural areas, and so they are really, really struggling to get power back to those people. And I know, like, that is not that's something that happened with the tornadoes last week down in the south. Well, not even too far south of us, because Missouri is our neighbor state, and a lot of people were affected there. But then Oklahoma and Arkansas and Alabama. Anyway, I know that a lot of you have been going through challenges like that, And so ours was not anything to really complain about. It's just explains why I didn't shoot anything yesterday. But so that kind of has been happening, or that's what happened to my week. And then I have been feeling kind of funny about my videos lately, because the last several have not performed super well, really haven't performed well at all compared to what they were doing. And so then it's hard not to it's hard not to wonder, oh, well, maybe I've run my course with people and they are tired of me now, kind of, that's where my mind goes. And it may just be that I've chosen boring subjects or topics for them. Oh, darn it. There went that toothpick, not to be found until a day I clean behind my workbench. So anyway, I don't know what's going on there. It may be me, it may not be me. I can't really, I shouldn't go into that kind of headspace, because it's hard to win with that. So what I'm doing today is I'm just trying to get myself here in front of the camera and do a little bit of making. It's not what like I said, it's not what I promised. I promised the beginning of this series, which was, I knew at the time was probably quite an ambitious thing for me to announce, as spotty as I am with kind of my upload schedule, as we're encouraged to think about it here as creators on YouTube. As spotty as I am with that, I'm not sure how I thought I was going to hold to that. And of course, I failed right out of the gate. So I'm trying not to get too down on myself. And here I am reverting to my old habits of hot glue. But it's just a tiny dot. And I'm listening to you. I listened to the person who said, oh, they release all kinds of chemicals into the air, so don't keep it on. I looked it up, and I mean, that's true, especially with the high heat ones, and I know that would be true because you can smell them, it's so strong. Mine is very, very low temp. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying I am trying to not keep it on all the time, and also it doesn't have any fume, so I don't think it's keeping the glue sticks at that temperature where they're so noxiously kind of off-gassing. Anyway, I don't know I don't even know if I'm going to post this. I'm going to see what it is when I get done, or even if I get done with anything. I just decided I would try to make while I chatted with you, and not have such high expectations for myself, and just see if I can come and get something done. So I really wanted to do a pull cart for spring, and I thought, okay, maybe I'll do a bunny, and that seemed like a good idea. And then a lot of you have requested rabbits or bunnies, but then I've always loved those little putz sheep, and I don't have one because they are quite expensive, and I've never invested the money that it would take to have one myself. But they're not just, I could ask for it for a gift if I really wanted to, but I've always thought I would try to make one, and I just haven't tried yet. I love our little sheep, and I love the putz ones because they're so kind of iconic, with their little stick legs and their fuzzy bodies. And I looked at a few because I always thought a lot of them looked like they were made with cotton batting, and I think quite a few of them are. Some of them are made with wool, it looks like, and some of them look so much like a sheep that's just been sheared. I don't know if they somehow actually are using wool that has the little marks like from the shaver in it. I don't know. I saw a few that were very interesting that way. So what I'm doing here is I don't want to take the time to sculpt a head out of paper clay and and let it dry. So since I have, well, and I have flour paste made from our paper mache last week that I was going to use for our cabinet this week, and I need to use soon because the flour paste for me goes bad quicker than the cornstarch paste. And right now I'm using cornstarch paste because I know that you can do that for paper mache too, and I'm using tissue paper. And the reason I'm using tissue paper is that it's so thin that it makes just a smoother kind of surface, and because I don't know if you know this, but I didn't know it until a few years ago that tissue paper is not recyclable, and which is like frustrating me, but I'm assuming it's because they must put like plastic or something. It must not be actually all paper. That's my guess about why that would be. And so it's a way I can kind of use up some of that. I keep it for like packing boxes and things, but this way I can use a little bit of it in my art, recycle it this way. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do for my little putz sheep's head. And then I'm just going to cover with a little bit of cotton for its, I'm trying to decide which fiber I'll use. Now this I thought would already look antiqued. This is some upholsterer's like batting that you put inside a piece of furniture, and it is actually vintage and aged and kind of grungy looking. My other options are I might use some batting for my top layer. So this is 100% cotton quilt batting. You could use cotton balls, obviously. So here's just a regular cotton ball, and this is kind of my fancier fiber that I use. So I think I'm actually going to use a little bit of this. This is like a cotton quilt batting that I bought for like filling a quilt, and it is organic, and that's why I bought it, because I use it for my kits that I sell, and it's a way that you can kind of form a base coat on your spun cotton with something that is more affordable to buy, but it's still organic. And I just like to use that if I can. You can get a lot of it for not a lot, like enough for a queen size quilt, you know, although then I don't know how one person would use that unless you were like a business where you were selling a million spun cotton things. But for me, for quilts, it was a way that I could include some organic fiber that could be used in your spun cotton sculptures, and it wouldn't be too cost prohibitive. Anyway, the reason I don't use it for my finished fiber usually is it's not combed the same way, so it's still got the big kind of lumps. You can see it's just not as even and smooth. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do for that. The legs are, this is probably going to be more of a lamb than a sheep, as small as it is. But I thought that was appropriate because it is today the first day of spring, even though we had our blizzard yesterday. But today it jumped back up to 50 today and is sunny, so most of that snow and ice is going away. I didn't position the legs great, but I was gonna go for a very primitive look, and that's what you can always say if if something looks like a child made it, is you just say, well, this is folk art, this is primitive art, so it's not meant to be literal. Okay, so that's all I'm gonna do for that, and that's really all I have to do. And I'm gonna start. So I could paint it now, I guess, while it's wet, but it's quite slimy. The paper mache is, and I don't know how it will. I can paint cotton while it's wet, but I don't need to paint the cotton for a sheep. It's just going to be natural. And this face, I will paint a little bit when it's dry. So I will do my little trick of, and this is so small and there's layers are so thin that I think it will just take a few minutes in a low temp oven, and it will be dry enough that I can work with it. I'm going to work on the little cart while it dries, and this is just one of these weird times where I'm just making this up as I go and chatting with you, and I may For the cart, I may not talk through that because honestly, I'm wondering, I just mentioned, I don't know, maybe people are just tired of my voice and would like a quicker video, tired of me rambling on. So I may just have the cart part just music, and I've done the cart before, so it's there in that pony video if you want to see like a step-by-step. But I'm going to do a very, very basic, simple cart today. This is just for me to make something and and make sure that I'm touching base with those of you who like to hear from me more often. And so there's just our base for our little sheep. We'll see how she turns out. Okay, so it really just took like 5 minutes for this to dry, or mostly dry. And I just heated up my oven, but not all the way, probably to like 200 or 250, and shut it off and let it sit there while I covered the cart with tissue paper. And I do have that little, it's not exactly a make-along, but it is like the one with the polka dot pony that I did in January shows how I make carts out of cardboard, so you can refer to that. But I'm making kind of a paper mache cart today. I mean, it started with cardboard, but I ended up covering it with paper mache. Now I'm really tempted to use this because it's already aged, but I'm going to use my cotton batting because you guys can get your hands on this. It's in my kits, and it's available online, but also you can find batting in places like Walmart, or your craft stores, or your local, I encourage this, local quilting shops. That would be a great place to take your business. So kind of ranges with what you get, like between $5, I've seen enough for like a baby quilt, $5 at Walmart, to up to maybe $15 for a crib size quilt amount of cotton batting. So I'm just using this like a little blanket on this sheep, and I think I'm just going to leave this about this size, and I'm just going to put a layer of starch, my cornstarch mix, underneath that. And then my idea is I'm going to see how, if I can kind of make it look a tiny bit nubbier and age it a little bit with coffee. And I don't want to overdo that. I don't want to turn it completely brown or make it look very obvious that I aged it. And I also don't want to coat the outside of my batting with the starch because I want it to, let's see if I need to turn down my exposure a little bit. I don't want to close that fiber if I can do it without. I might have to close it a little bit. And then my idea was that I would come back and kind of muss it up and see if I could get it to be a little bit more nubby. Nubby. I don't know what you would say exactly. And I need to somehow kind of wrap it or secure it to the legs. And I may just have to do more starch there, which is okay, because that would be a place where their coat would not be quite as fluffy and long anyway. And then I need a little triangle here up on the top. Oh, and I need ears, of course. And I think I'm just going to cut the ears out of my batting as well. So batting is really handy. You could do this with felt, I think, but I haven't actually done that. So I'm sorry about bumping that. So I can't tell you with certainty that would work, but I think it probably would. And then of course you could do this with a cotton ball that you just peel open and use, kind of flatten it out as much as you can. I don't want to, if there's interest in this, I could do more of my regular style where I show you lots of different materials and kind of several different ways of doing that. But I just wanted to be very quick and just an idea of something that you could try, but not just the exhaustive Rosanna Makes classic tutorial. Okay, I'm kind of liking how that's looking, and I think it will be secure when it's dry. I mean, I'm not going to just test its limits right now because that is never going to, I mean, you can always pull apart something with spun cotton when it's wet. You can't test its security at that point. So I'm just I'm just going to cut some little ears and a little tail. And I forgot to mention, I don't know that I will end up painting. This is just white tissue paper, like the cheapest kind of tissue paper that's in a box of shoes, or just, not like fancy stuff that you buy for wrapping a gift. And it kind of turned a putty white, I would say, in the oven. And I'm thinking I'm gonna just I'm not even gonna paint this thing. I may use a tiny bit of black paint or black ink for little feet, and I will probably use a little bit of watercolor for the nose. But this is something you could probably do without any paints besides, just a few little. So what I'm gonna do is I cut a little scrap and I shaped an ear out of my batting. And I just have to decide how I want it to face. I think sheep kind of have funny ears. So I'm going to like hook it up over here because I'm going to put a triangle of batting up here for its little head hair that sheep have a little top knot up there. I think that's what I'm going to do here. And I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. I hope this isn't too much of me talking. I'll try to cut it out if I think I'm saying more than what I need to. Okay. That ear might. Does it match well enough? That's always the question with eyes and ears is it close enough that it doesn't look just kind of off-putting. And then we will use a little triangle for the top. I like to tear this particular batting because then that kind of frayed edge can kind of disappear into the rest of the batting. Better than a hard edge. Okay, so they kind of just put a little triangle up here, and that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put a big gloop of starch, and I have, of course, a black cat hair, and I don't want that black cat hair on my little spring lamb. Okay, and there it is again, because of course it's sticking to my starchy fingers. Okay. Now, I think I'm just going to have to see if everything seems secure enough when it's dry again. But I think that I have enough that it's just going to put a little bit back there. Okay. Now, I just need to age it a little bit and put... Oh, I said I wasn't going to have to paint, and I lied because I forgot about the legs. They probably do need to get painted. Now, we could make a little black sheep, or black face sheep. Oh, I can't paint. I gotta wait because I gotta get water. Okay. But I can't do that, or I don't want to do that today because I do love the little black face and lambs, and they have, then they also have black legs because all their skin is black, but that will make it really hard to give it that little kind of characteristic red or pink mouth area like the putz sheep have. So I'm just gonna stay traditional and leave it white today. And okay, I don't know, I guess should I put a little bit there? I wasn't going to, and it's not even, I'm not sure it's even enough of a difference to matter. Okay, and then we'll do a little black for the feet in a little bit. I think I might just wait. Well, no, I won't wait until it's on the card. But anyway, I don't need to be walking or talking you through that. Okay, now for the coffee, I have to be careful because this could get too strong, and I'm trying to think how I can keep it diluted enough. So I'm dipping my brush in the coffee and in my water jar. So I'm putting on very, very diluted coffee because I just want it to be yellowed. And I do sometimes have trouble with my coffee turning green as it dries, which is not usually what I'm going for. I'm not usually wanting that green color, but it's sometimes what I get, and I don't exactly know why that happens. It must be, I would think, like acidity or like how ripe the beans were. Because I know you can actually have, like, I forgot the tail. I know you can have coffee from green beans, I think, that aren't quite, I might be wrong. You can correct me. Okay, and then she needs a little tail. I guess sometimes, and we could have attached a little wire in there and made it a posable tail that could, you could put it in different positions. This is going to be a little bit longer than the docked tails. Our sheep don't have their tails docked because there's a school of thought on, two schools of thought on that. There might be more than two, but I just know of the two, and we've opted to let them have a way to fight the flies. Okay, now I hope that this fiber will once again look more fluffy and fuzzy when it dries, and I'm gonna see how it comes out of the oven as far as color and texture, and see if I need to kind of rough it up to give it a little bit more interesting texture again. But that's kind of, this isn't, I could work on perfecting this and fine-tuning it, but this is just where we're starting, and I may make a little flock of these putz sheep on carts, and they'll probably improve a little bit as they go, but I think this is an okay first start. So the painting is very, very simple. Take your finest brush that you have, or one of the finest brushes, and just, I'm using this Ox Dark color from Jasper Stardust, so it's not technically a black, it's a dark brown. I think it's just a little softer than a true black, but black is fine, or if you want to use dark brown, that's great too. And I'm just making a very round circular eye. All the putz sheep that I looked at just had that basic eye shape, and I didn't find anything really that varied too much from that. And then some of the sheep have just a red splotch covering the whole end of their nose. I decided to draw little nostrils and a mouth on with my Ferris Red gouache paint from Jasper Stardust, and then I just watered that same color down a little bit to make some blush for the cheeks, which is not traditional at all, but I couldn't resist. And then I'll use that Ox Dark for the little hooves. You could definitely do these details with some sort of felt tip marker or pen if you have it, and that would work probably just as well as paint. Here she is. I could definitely do a few things different the next time, but I think for about an hour of time, and being really out of sorts at the start of it, I'm really happy. She's so cute. Good morning. I got up early this morning because I wanted to try my sheep again and see if it worked again the way I had showed you. So I did 3 more, and I did them almost exactly the same, except that you will watch the process. And originally, when I had my little foil base, I used a little bit of this fiber to go around it, and then I covered it with a piece of cotton quilt batting. And for these, I didn't do the underlayer of cotton. I just went over the foil directly with my cotton quilt batting, and then after I put the batting on, I did just a very, very, I skimmed on some of my cornstarch paste, and then I just did a very, very thin layer of fiber over the top to give it kind of that fuzzy look. But I thought this one turned out really well, and then the only other difference that I've made to that process is with the tail. This tail I just attached a piece of batting with starch, so there's not like any wire or anything in it. And these I decided I would poke a little hole in the foil with my toothpick and put in just a small little piece of a pipe cleaner, but you could use wire or anything. And I just attach it with a dab of hot glue, and that way the tail is a little bit more secure and it can move a little bit if you want it to. So that is the kind of the small changes I've made to my process, but otherwise I'm doing it just like I showed you, and they're all turning out really sweet. I think it's a very doable make for people because it doesn't require many materials, and it's a kind of a very basic process. And like the painting is quite simple. I just feel like I think it's a good beginner spun cotton project. I guess there is the element of paper mache, but you could definitely cover your foil head with just cotton fiber, as I've shown you in other tutorials. So what I'm going to show you, and I did a cardboard cart in the little pony video from a few months ago, so you can refer back to that if you would like to make kind of a cardboard plank looking cart that looks like it's painted kind of wood, or that's at least the look I'm trying to kind of mimic with that. And what I'm going to do here is just something very simple. I have this beautiful little scrap of fabric from another YouTuber, Amity Bloom. She is a, and some of you I hope will know her. She does scrapbooking, beautiful scrapbooking pages and, journal page ideas and things like that. And she sent me this package of beautiful paper ephemera and fabrics, and then also all of her new lines of washi tapes. She sent me that for Christmas, and and this was in there, and it is actually, I'm not going to do hot glue, I'm going to be good. I'll use my, actually, you know what, I could probably just use my cornstarch paste. Anyway, so this is from her, and she is going to be kind of the benefactor of this particular little sheep, who is going to, I have had this tiny start of a party hat sitting off to the side here for months, and I keep putting it on little things' heads, and it didn't fit anyone, and then I put it on this little sheep, and it looks so cute. It's for her. I know that it was meant for her. She just looks perfect in it. So she's gonna have her little hat, and she's gonna have a kind of a fabric covered cart, which is not, I think I'm gonna do like the button wheels too, which is a little bit probably not my typical style, but I always like to show you guys options, and I love this little piece of fabric so much. It's so cheerful. It reminds me of colors I would love to use for like a children's birthday party, and because the sheep is going to have a party hat, we're going to do that. And then I think I'm going to use buttons for the wheels just as a shortcut, and because I think a lot of you would have buttons on hand, and it's a really easy option for a cart. It's just, you don't have to fuss around getting your circles just right, and so there's no reason not to do it, especially if you are kind of someone who loves to work with textiles and sewing materials and has a little button collection that you can work with. So I think these fabrics are going to play together. I think it's going to be really sweet. So I'm going to pick out my little button wheels, and we'll assemble this little cart. I absolutely just had a complete failure with attaching buttons with craft glue. It just wasn't going to work for me. So I let it dry, and I'm using my my hot glue, which I am trying to use less of, but I broke down and felt like I needed to use it for this. if you have tips on using craft glue for things that like that, where it's kind of something that needs to, you know, like it's there's not a lot of surface area, and it kind of there was no way to, well, maybe if I had set it up on something, I don't know, propped it up, but they just kept falling off no matter what angle I set it at. Okay, there's our little cart, and I guess I need to make a little pole for it. So I guess this is the cart that will be demonstrated today, which is very, very simple, and doesn't look quite so traditional, I guess, as like the cardboard one that I make that looks a little bit more like, kind of plays like it's a wood cart. This is a little bit craftier version, I would say, for you folks who have some cute little textiles that you can play with. You could do it with pretty tissue paper too, or any kind of pretty scrapbooking paper that you have. You could get a similar sort of look. I am going to attach the feet with craft glue because it just occurred to me that putz sheep always have a collar, and usually it's like red. I think that's the most common one that I've seen. I don't know that I'm going to do red because we're doing spring theme, and I didn't use the red accent for their mouths. So I think I'm going to try some other colors of fabric colors and see how they look. But it's really just going to be as simple as finding some ribbon or fabric and cutting it down to about that width, and then just gluing it onto itself. You could do a little bell if you have a tiny bell, but I'm just going to do the collars. So I'll show you what they look like when I've picked little colors for all of them. Aren't they sweet? I'm really happy with how they've turned out, and I really want to encourage you to try this. This is one of the easier projects that I've come up with and shared here, especially for animals. I have beginner spun cotton, but sometimes it's something like a strawberry or radish, because that's a very simple shape. But these sheep are quite simple as an animal form goes, and you can really be very primitive, I guess, in the way you cut. You don't have to be literal about how their ears are shaped, and of course the toothpicks are the legs, so you don't have to shape a leg. So I think it's a good animal to start with, and I think a lot of us have an affection for old German putz sheep. So this is a way that you can make your own, or have something similar to that you've actually created. So I'm very happy. I think I'm gonna do some more experimenting with these, try some smaller, try some larger, experiment with the shape and kind of the fibers and things that I use. But this was a great, unexpected, creative project for me this week that I didn't see coming. I really felt like I had failed to deliver on what I promised, and I did fail to deliver on what I promised last week. That's very true. But I think instead of that, I brought something that I hope is very approachable, and it would be something that a lot of you look at and think, I think I might be able to make that, because I really do believe you can. So this was our first little one that I showed all the process with. I don't like the wheels on the cart. They're going to come off probably, and I will replace them with something I like better. But I think she is actually very sweet, and I always kind of have an affection for the first little animal I make of any certain type. For some reason, they have a sweetness that I sometimes think I don't capture again in the next one. So although this party hat one definitely makes me smile, I just think she's got so much personality, and this is, I don't know, it's just so easy to do, your own variation on this with some little bits of paper or fabric that you have, and just really make kind of a fun and festive little spin on a putz sheep, which is traditionally obviously very unornamented. So I resisted adding a bell or a flower to this one, and even the velvet collar is probably a little over the top for kind of the humble putz sheep style. And then this one I think is so sweet, jumping over the tulips, we could work on doing something if you have interest in just making a little kind of, I don't know what you would call this exactly. It is like a little scene, I guess, or a way to give it kind of an environment. I don't, if someone has a better name for what I'm making here, let me know. But yeah, we could work on a little spring kind of flower setting for a little spun cotton figure. Anyway, thanks for being with me, for putting up with this. I hope that I have worked it into a video that is not so overwhelming time-wise, and also doesn't include so much of my exhaustive chatting or rambling, however you think of it. So hopefully this is a quick and fast one for spring, and that it encourages you to just get your hands busy. Don't get hung up on the way that your first or second sheep goes. Just think about putting in a little bit of time and practice, and then I think by your third and fourth sheep, if you're new to spun cotton, you'll be getting some results that you can be really happy with. So anyway, I thank you for being here with me and for all your support and encouragement, and I wish you happy spring and happy making.